I do have a bit, but I don't think it'll make the final podcast. But I have one.
I believe in your bit, and I think it will. So let's hear it.
Just like, you never know. Maybe someone's like their New Year's resolution. Let's try a new podcast. I don't know if this is the best way to start. It was gonna be this, and this is voted just for us. All right, we got white podcast, black podcast, Spanish podcast, yellow podcast. We got hot podcast, cold podcast. We even got horse podcast, dog podcast, chicken podcast. Come on, you want podcast? Come on in, podcast lovers. If we don't got it, you don't want it. Come on in, podcast lovers. Welcome to 2024. Like
I said, I think this has worked.
I don't know if it works.
I think this should be the opening for the show regularly.
Yeah. I stopped doing replacing a word with podcast because it was just, a blatant ripoff of Blank Check, which even though the few times I did that, I mentioned it's a blatant ripoff of Blank Check, still felt like too much of a ripoff. So I stopped doing that. But maybe I can make an exception for this one.
I think you can.
There's a lot of people in this movie we haven't talked about before. And
oh shit, I think you're right.
It feels it's probably a good thing, but I feel like there's been multiple episodes in a row now where I've said that, and so I'll try and think of a different way to put that, but I haven't yet. Anyway, as you know, I don't understand the podcast, so it'll either be whatever survives from the few minutes we've been recording, or something along the lines of "Welcome to Late to the Movies." My name is Ben Holton. This is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Each week, we'll pick a film that either I or a guest hadn't seen before and really should have by now. This week, continuing Dumpuary, semicolon. Wait, no, just full colon. My bad. Oh, I fucked the whole thing up. I should start from the very beginning with that whole quote again. No.
Yes.
Dumpuary, colon, Battle of the Genres. We did comedy last week with Waiting for Guffman. Today, we're taking on, well, a master of genre and a movie that combines a lot of genres, but it is our horror entrant for the month. It is Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn. Guest this week, left, right, across the podcast. We got Vaz.
Help me, Ben.
I was going to say, it's a very quotable movie, but not like a movie that you'd want to record yourself quoting extensively. So I don't know how many quotes are going to work into it. Definitely if I was like, I don't know, like a bro-y college dude in the 90s, I feel like it would have been an extremely quotable movie. But I don't know about so much in my current state,
I feel like at least, or for like bro-y dudes back in the 90s, I feel like this movie would have went a bit under their radar. Like this would have had been like the film geek bros who would be like, "Oh, you got to see From Dusk Till Dawn."
Yeah, you have to appreciate the influences that Robert Rodriguez is wearing on his sleeve here, maybe to really let yourself get subsumed by this particular aesthetic. I don't know. But I do think of like the people who think like Martin Scorsese loves criminals and like, Jordan Belfort. He just seems cool. I don't watch the last hour of Wolf of Wall Street because he's just so cool. I don't need to watch the last hour. I feel like those people are maybe just like, wow, these guys are all so cool. Maybe that would be their takeaway from this movie. But but to even get in the door, you'd have to be maybe a little bit more curious than the average bro.
Yeah, I think so.
That's fair. I don't know if I knew this until the credits, but Cheech Marin, one of the characters he plays, the one I quoted, his name is just Chet Podcast. I didn't know that. Just to fully replace that word for this episode, maybe. Before we get into it, though, we texted about this a little bit earlier. If you do have something good that you've seen recently, then by all means, let that rip. But gonna maybe go in a different direction since it's just you and I here, and normally these one-on-one episodes go a little bit shorter. 2023 at large, was there anything good you saw last year?
Yeah, so I mean, I know most of the people who listen probably don't have their own letterboxes, but I have Letterboxd, and you've seen my Letterboxd. I've already put together my list of my favorite movies of last year that I've seen so far. And I mean, for me, like I'll talk about some recent ones that just came out. Poor Things, one of my favorite movies last year. New Yorgos Smirnov, I forget his name.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you went Yakov Smirnov.
Same guy, right?
Yeah, same guy.
But just like an incredibly strange, weird movie that is like just so unique and touching that and some of the best performances I've seen this year. Mark Ruffalo is pretty great in this. He's very funny and just giving something he hasn't done in his career before. Emma Stone arguably giving like her best performance in her career.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. I really want to. That's true of a lot of your top 5 or 6 movies I haven't seen yet, but really want to.
Yeah, in May December, which was like my number 3, and I'm like honestly dying to rewatch that movie again because it's so good. I it could actually just become my favorite movie of last year. That
I've
one's
heard
with
that a lot.
yeah. I want to like go back and watch more Todd Haynes movies because I think I've only seen like Carol before, but I kind of really want to watch Safe. I've heard great things about that, and
Yeah.
in this one like not. I know I just said Emma Stone just gave like one of her career best performances in Poor Things, but like I think Natalie Portman gave her career best performance in May December. She's incredible in that.
Yeah, I like her a lot as an actor, and I guess I didn't realize that there's such a I don't know, vocal contingent, but maybe minor contingent, whatever. The people who care about stuff enough to talk about it online seem to think that Natalie Portman isn't that good of an actor. So the fact that this is apparently one of her best performances is really intriguing to me.
I am surprised that a lot of people don't think she's a great actor. Granted, I don't keep super online with that kind of stuff, but it seems a little strange. I mean, she's definitely
Yeah.
hasn't been great in some movies, but by and large, I think she has a solid career.
I mean, she convincingly fell in love with that literal toddler in that Star Wars movie. So
Oh yes,
I'm
I know. The romance of our generation.
right. Yeah. Maybe undercutting my own actual genuine belief that I think she's a great actress, but those movies are no one's fault.
No, no. That movie has way more problems that Nicole Kidman, that Natalie Portman could not control.
Yeah, that's so. I feel like I'm steering us off course. I'm sorry. Anything else
Uh,
good from last year?
um, just I'm gonna wrap. My favorite movie last year was Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah,
Love Past Lives. Oppenheimer is still something that I think about a lot, and I know it's 3 hours, but I really want to watch that like again soon, maybe a few more times. Boy and the Heron, new Miyazaki film. Also, gotta say, I am so happy to have gotten a new Miyazaki film that I can see in theaters for like
yeah,
with everyone else for the first time. That was a big gift for me this year.
yeah. It was his first movie in what, a decade, pretty much, and uh,
Yeah,
supposedly he is working on another movie. He didn't retire after this one, so hopefully that opportunity will come up again because it is a special thing, a legitimate master of the form. A lot of those guys and ladies considered legitimate masters made
yep,
movies this year, and good year for movies.
yeah, just solid year. Just I'm not 100% looking forward to. Well, I'm a little worried about the movie crop for next year, considering the
I
dual
know.
strikes we had.
The one saving grace of the stuff that got pushed back is at least Dune will be this year. I am really
Yes.
looking forward to Dune.
We're-
Um,
I'm also looking forward to The Bike Riders, which was supposed to come out in
yeah,
December of last year, but got pushed to like June of this year. But that one looks great. So how about you, Ben? What do you got from
yeah.
last year?
So not like super low on your list, but definitely higher on my list is Asteroid City. Which is now that pretty much all the critics awards happened at the end of the year, and you already see like what's getting nominated for Golden Globes, which happened yesterday when this episode comes out.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Um, feels like people forgot about Asteroid City. And Wes Anderson movies never get a lot of respect for award stuff, but I thought Asteroid City was phenomenal.
I don't get it either. Like I really love what Wes Anderson's been doing, like especially recently, where he's just been deconstructing so much of like his like stories and narrative. Like
Yep.
it's wild. And I just watched his Netflix shorts that he did for the Rodolph specials.
Yes.
And those are all like incredibly great, and like the production value, I mean, the production design on those were just incredible. And like, even the deconstruction that he does in those is like
Yeah.
fascinating. I'm loving where he's going right now.
So that'd be my big one. A lot of my top ones are on your list. Also, I want to see if there's any other big standouts from my list. You didn't mention John Wick 4, which was also really
Oh, yeah.
high on my
That was really
list.
high on mine. I saw that movie 3 times in theaters. And like, I could not get enough of it. I would watch that again now. It's just,
Yeah.
I love the John Wicks, and like that last hour of that movie is just like action perfection.
I think we both liked Beau is Afraid a decent amount.
Yep.
We've spent a lot of time talking about Beau is Afraid on the podcast. I like the Holdovers a lot, and
Yeah, same.
I think I'm higher on Maestro than you were based on your list, but I think you still liked Maestro, right?
Yeah, I like Maestro.
But do you want to talk about From Dusk Till Dawn?
Oh, I got like a few minutes, so sure.
Okay, cool. 1996 is From Dusk Till Dawn, a Robert Rodriguez film. We've never done any of his movies before. I had not seen this movie fully before. Weirdly, last week with Waiting for Guffman, I mentioned that I had started watching it at some point in college, and then like I didn't make it all the way through. Same with From Dusk Till Dawn. I think I got, I don't know, 5 minutes in, and then was just like, I don't think I'm in the mood for this, and I never went back to it. So I had not seen it before. How about you?
I know, I think maybe like 9 years ago, I watched it with like some friends at one of our houses. It was like looking for something on Netflix to watch, and we just chose From Dusk Till Dawn. I remember enjoying it. Don't
Yeah.
remember much else though.
I guess either of us in that case are eligible for a 1 minute plot summary. Do you want to? Do you have anything prepped, or you want me to do it? What are you feeling?
I got nothing prepped, but I can come up with something on the fly. I honestly
Even
forgot
better.
that you do this part of the for the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for listeners.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, go for it whenever you're ready.
All right. All right. We got two brothers. They are criminals, and they are dumb. Well, at least one is psychotic, and the other one is barely keeping it together. And then there's also another family, dad who's a priest. That'll come up later, and he has 2 kids. One is an over sexualized daughter, and the other is his son. They get wrangled into the two brother criminals mishaps, and they travel down to Mexico. They end up at a bar called the Titty Twister. At the Titty Twister, they're having fun, bunch of naked ladies around. And then it turns out that Quentin Tarantino has a foot fetish that's pretty bad. And and also vampires are there. They kill the vampires. And the whole movie changes from typical uh, uh, crime movie to a monster flick. End story.
Yeah, so the low hanging fruit joke is to be like, yeah, it says I'm reading the Wikipedia for it, and it says here that in lieu of payment, Quentin Tarantino demanded that there was a scene where he drinks tequila poured down Salma Hayek's foot. But that's below us, so we won't make that joke. So what I was going to say before I remembered that we do a 1 minute plot summary is one of the fun things that I like to kind of do because it makes the podcast's theme make sense. What I was surprised about, having not seen this before, structurally, how much time it takes before they actually get to the Titty Twister, the bar where the vampires are. And I was also surprised. I don't think I knew Harvey Keitel was in this movie, and I don't think I knew Juliette Lewis was in this movie. But what I did know was Clooney, Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, vampires in a bar, and they get like, it's sort of like a shootout thing in the bar. Shootout, holding a location, all that kind of stuff. I thought it was fun that the son of Harvey Keitel's character is wearing a Precinct 13 shirt, nodding
like
to Assault on Precinct 13, I'm assuming. the John Carpenter movie, in which that kind of thing happens. That's what that whole movie is. An even cleaner narrative than this movie, which becomes a really clean narrative, but the first 45 minutes are a little messy, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I
No,
think
messy's the wrong word, but just as like going into this going, okay, I know this is sort of a genre mashup thing, but I know they're ending up at a bar that they don't know is vampires, and then it turns into vampires. And I was surprised that it took them almost half the movie to get to that bar.
I, th- I think it was an hour when the reveal came that it was vampires.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's almost an hour to get to the bar. And then it is like another, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes that they're at the bar before it's like, okay, vampire time.
Yeah. It's I I for some reason thought it was more the vampire stuff than it was the Quentin Tarantino typical like 90s film.
I know. Yeah. And it's hard to separate all of this from Tarantino. I mean, he did write it. So that's, I guess, fair enough. Story by Robert Kurtzman. Tarantino's the screenplay, though. Robert Kurtzman, Robert Rodriguez, Greg Nicotero, Tom Savini, who's actually in the movie. Lot of like huge names in special effects and creature effects and makeup artists doing a lot of stuff in this movie. Which I was also surprised at looking at the credits list of like a lot of names that I recognize, but not as actors or as writers, are guys who are involved in this movie also.
It feels like, well, I mean, great. Like this was the first collaboration between Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. Though I know, if I remember what I read correctly, it was kind of by accident because I think they just like Robert Rodriguez was just attached to it, and then it just turned out like, oh, Quentin Tarantino was writing it as well.
Oh, cool. It matches up a lot with at least Robert Rodriguez's influences, and to an extent Tarantino's influences with the kind of grindhousey stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting that it's not that there's not also a screenplay credit for Robert Rodriguez, because it does feel like it's more his shit, so to speak. You
it
know?
really does. Like I don't know if like it feels like it would have been like Quentin Tarantino was writing it, and then like in the background, Robert Rodriguez is there, and he's just saying like, and then there's vampires, and then people are like throwing holy water on them, and like half their face is missing.
Yeah, and it turns out that it's the top floor of an Aztec pyramid at the end. Like that doesn't feel
Yeah,
like a Tarantino thing. And Danny Trejo's there. That was just in the script. Danny Trejo's there. All feels very Rodriguez. Anyway,
yeah.
and in case you didn't know, because sometimes we make the mistake of being like, oh yeah, we all know this guy's whole deal. Robert Rodriguez, he directed the 5 Spy Kids movies. There you go.
Yes. And he did nothing else.
Nothing else. Of years later, co-made Grindhouse with Tarantino. One of the fake trailers from that, Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, just got made into a real movie. Another fake trailer from that, Machete, also turned into an actual movie.
Which was directed by Robert Rodriguez, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's him working with Trejo, Machete, Spy Kids, I guess culturally is maybe the bigger of the things. But, El Mariachi coming up in the 90s indie shit with Tarantino kind of hitting right around the same time, I guess.
And El Mariachi, I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but it is like a kind of just an important like film in history, since it was just like Rodriguez just made it for like $7,000, like showing
Yes.
like, hey, you can just make a movie, just use what you got. And he has that book, Rebel Without a Crew.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I mean, both of these guys are part of a huge industry shift towards, who has power, who's allowed to make movies. These kind of like outsider nerds, really.
Yeah.
These guys who are obsessed with the history of film, but not with like, so all the things that are getting put out for like the 100 years of Warner Brothers and stuff this year. They're obsessed with the exploitation films, with the Grindhouse shit, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's I think, so that's why this feels like such a love letter from Robert Rodriguez to his stuff, in the same way that like Jackie Brown for Quentin Tarantino feels similarly in that vein, for the blaxploitation movies that he problematically loves.
Well, he's uh there's a
Yeah,
there's a
okay.
bit there's a bit of that kind of writing that Quentin Tarantino seems to love in this movie as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. um I liked how goofy it got, how Evil Dead it gets, how Sam Raimi, I guess, even more to the point it gets once the vampire shit goes off, and it's not that precious about who lives, who dies, who gets mutilated, who blows up.
Yeah.
And
Um.
I thought all that was pretty fun.
Did you have any favorite kills in during that sequence?
um, I like I like when the I can't remember the big guy, not
Frost, I think his name is.
Frost, yeah. When Frost pulls the heart out of like the giant vampire guy,
Yeah, I
and
like that.
he's not like, and he's like kind of down for the count, but he's not dying. And then mention Tom Savini, his character's name is Sex Machine. He stabs the heart just with the pencil, and then the guy like dies and like catches on fire. That's a good gag. That's a really good gag.
That was a great gag. I love that gag. I liked it when I think most of my favorite kills are from Frost. When
Yeah.
Frost um like stakes four different women on the
Yeah.
same table.
He basically has to like Brock Lesnar F5 all of them like from
Yep.
his shoulders onto the table legs to stake them. I liked that it was very in in a way that's consistent with the aesthetic of this movie, with the sort of the language of what's happening on screen, the inconsistency with how much force is needed to kill the vampires, to stake the vampires, whatever. Um, I liked that. That sometimes like you really needed to like get a lot of power behind it, or sometimes it's just like Juliette Lewis who's playing, I think, a pretty young girl in this
I want to
movie.
say 16 that she's playing.
Yeah, convincingly, which is that's a different thing we can get into. But so yeah, those were my favorite kills. Any other like you know, I once the sun started happening and people were just exploding, I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, that was great. Harvey Keitel's death,
Yeah.
where he loses half his face, I think was really great.
Yes.
Robert Rodriguez is actually in the movie. I believe he's the band leader in the strip club.
Oh, nice.
And I
I
like that the
like.
band just blows themselves up.
Yeah. Thank you, or like fuck you and good night, and then
Yep.
yeah, they're gone. Um, I liked that also, like the stuff that changes once the vampire stuff changes. It's like some of it is just people's face change and they look more gnarly, very Buffy the Vampire Slayer esque. Um, some
Was this pre
people like,
Buffy?
I think this is during, right?
Okay. I can't remember when Buffy the TV show started.
Um, 97 pre Buffy.
Okay.
March 97. So a full year and change. So they were probably in development. Okay, so yeah. So Buffy varied from Dusk Till Dawn, I should say. But then like Salma Hayek is kind of like a lizard.
Yeah. Yep.
Some people like Frost, they have like very monstery kind of looking faces, not just like more aggressive versions of their own face. Some people become like really like loose, fleshy monster kind of people, a la the old lady and barbarian. Um, I like that it's just sort of all over the place. I think it's good. I think that's a good thing.
I think so too. Like I like the variety in all of the vampires they were doing, and
Yep.
I like that when Sex Machine turns into a vampire dog.
Very the thing. The thing definitely
Yeah.
before this.
Yes.
um,
Um,
yeah.
and I don't know about you, but I felt that George Clooney's um steak jackhammer was not incredibly effective.
No, when holy water instantly is killing these people, like grab a fucking bucket. What are we doing, guys?
Yeah, like they have just as much holy water as they can make.
Yeah,
Just do all
it's
that.
dumb. It's that part's a little bit frustrating as a viewer. I mean, and I'm talking about how much I'm enjoying the inconsistency, and that is part of it too. And I'm sure that's
Yeah,
a conscious choice, but that still is sort of like, I mean, that
come on, guys.
there's a couple innocent people that didn't have to die here. You know, not talking about Tarantino, but the kid with the Precinct 13 shirt. I did look up if you could buy that shirt. You can. I
Oh,
might.
nice. It's a good
Um,
shirt.
it's a really good shirt, and it's kind of like you have to specifically look up a From Dusk Till Dawn Precinct 13 shirt, because if you look up an Assault from Precinct 13 shirt, it's just like the movie poster for a different movie. Um, a couple of the things that did surprise me: the structure, the pacing. I, I don't think it's that big of a surprise that since we started talking about the movie, we're focusing a lot on the last 40 minutes of the hour and 45 minutes, because that first hour doesn't do a lot for me, to be honest.
So I will say I actually really enjoyed the beginning part of the movie where it was like John
Sure.
Hawkes and Earl McGraw. I forgot his name.
That I did like. That's fair. And
Um,
young Hawks
yes,
looking
I
squarely.
I checked out the IMDb after this and like was seeing who was in the movie, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was John Hawkes until after.
No. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's literally the only person who looks like that, but
Yep.
still.
But I loved his whole like scene and the whole gas station thing.
Yes. And them walking, I mean, it does feel like the idea you have, and then you work backwards from the image
Yep.
of the two brothers having just like a sibling style normal argument while the epic action movie explosions are happening behind them and they are not even paying attention to it.
Yeah,
I,
I did enjoy that part.
yeah.
But then after that, it gets a little bleh. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I
It's
don't care for a lot of the Tarantino stuff in there. Like I just found that a little
no.
more unnecessary or gross. I don't know.
Yeah, like the all the stuff that happens with the bank teller, like, yeah, I guess it is part of the world that they're trying to build and the kind of things that happen in the kind of movies that they're being inspired by, but it's not, that doesn't make it like enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
uh
Um.
it's pretty, yeah, it's not good. And then yeah, and it does really feel like they're explicitly having Juliette Lewis play like 15 or 16 here. So,
Yeah. It's just like I don't know why
and I
Juliet
think she's like
Lewis.
26
I think
at
she
this
is
point. So
because I did check to see like how old Juliet Lewis at this point. Because I was thinking like she got like super typecast like in the '90s of just being like, oh, you're gonna play like a young girl who is like looked at as like in a sexy way or something like that, or as a
yeah,
sexual figure.
this is like weirdly kind of after that, and she's playing like way younger here than,
Yeah,
I don't know.
like
This is after Strange Days. You know, this is way after
uh,
Cape Fear. Not that she's playing super old in Cape Fear or anything, but
yeah, and at least at Cape Fear she's 18 in that, like
right,
in real life.
yeah,
And it's after Natural Born Killers.
yeah. Like she's played an adult before, but like,
Yes.
yeah, and I mean, she just has such a unique presence in movies, especially in, you know, 90s movies. But
Yes.
um, yeah, it's weird. So this is, I mentioned all the people we haven't talked about before. This is our second Juliette Lewis movie. Do you know what the first one was?
It's got to be Strange Days,
No, we haven't
or
done. No
I,
one's been brave enough to do. We'll do a cyberpunk month eventually.
I don't know though.
Christmas Vacation.
I never saw Christmas Vacation. I didn't even know
Oh,
she was in that.
yes, she's the daughter in that one. Christmas Vacation's what, the third vacation or the second one? The kids are different in every movie, but
Oh, I didn't
that's,
know that.
yeah, which is weird. Um, but it's That movie is Johnny Galecki and Juliette Lewis are the kids.
Hmm.
And only in that movie.
Okay.
Just like it's the first one's Anthony Michael Hall, right?
I I could not tell you very much about the
That's
vacation
fine.
movies. I've seen the first one and I didn't enjoy it.
You're my go-to for all Chevy Chase related trivia. Come on.
Oh, okay. I'll catch up on Chevy Chase movies.
Okay.
Wait,
Um,
have we not talked about You haven't done a Tarantino movie before?
nope.
Oh, I just assumed you did like Pulp Fiction or
Almost.
something. Inglourious Bastards, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Almost did Pulp Fiction also like 2 years ago. And then Greg and Ray were going to do it, and then they got sick. And then we
Uh,
started doing themes shortly after that. It was far enough back that we weren't doing themes yet.
okay.
And we started doing themes shortly after that. And like, we haven't done something that Tarantino fits into yet. I love a lot of Tarantino movies. Okay, here. Well, you know what? Here's a good time. Let's do the Tarantino thing that we talked
Okay.
about.
Let's
You
talk
got
about Tarantino.
um. He's not a good actor. He never is.
No,
But
he's never is.
he's not great
He,
in this movie. But
he,
it does. It is unfortunately the role that maybe plays the most into his public persona
I
of being kind of creepy.
I think that's right because I mean, I will give Tarantino this. He looks unique. Like I don't.
Yes.
There's not many people who look like that. Um, but like he is just weirdly a creep.
Yes. Seemingly in his own life, he's sort of just a super nerd. He's just like the most successful possible version of the like video store hipsters that would, you know, tell you, oh, don't watch that, you should watch this instead, that worked at Blockbuster or whatever. And it was not making that up. That's literally like his backstory. It wasn't a Blockbuster, but whatever it was. And he's got that podcast now with his sometimes creative partner who also worked at that store with him. um but yeah. uh
So that
oh,
aspect of Tarantino, I don't mind that much. I like that there is some weird guy who just knows everything about movies and will just rattle them off like crazy.
yeah.
Uh, it's more his weird obsession with feet and how open he gets to be about it.
Yeah, that's reached like meme level. It's like impossible to talk about him without that coming up. But it's
Yeah,
in totally in like in our defense in this particular movie, he does suck on Salma Hayek's foot for a while.
yeah, and considering it's a movie he wrote,
Right? Yeah, he wrote that. Like he knew he was going to play that part. Right?
and it's like, oh, weird. I have to do this with Salma Hayek.
I didn't know we were shooting that today. I didn't even read the script. It's like, no, yes, you can't claim that, buddy.
Oh, hey, Robert, I think we're gonna have to do that shot again. I think I messed it up.
It's yeah, it's hard to avoid. Um, and then the other Tarantino thing we could do is he's a great director. One of my favorite. I love a lot of his movies.
Same.
Seems like he was mean to Uma Thurman and she got injured while shooting Kill Bill, and that sucks too.
Yeah, Tarantino also had that connection to Weinstein. That's not so great.
This also a Miramax film, I believe.
Yep. Although I will say the beginning of this movie starts with I think just the Dimension logo, um,
Yeah.
and then it goes straight into the movie. There's nothing else after that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And Miramax thing does come at the very like after the credits.
I liked the opening credits too after the gas station. That was
Yes, I
cool.
do too.
Those were good. But yeah, do you have a general Tarantino sort of hit list ranking, anything like that?
Yeah. So my favorite's probably still just Pulp Fiction. I mean, it's a classic for a reason, and it feels like everyone has said like everything that needs to be said about that movie, but it's still like great. Kill Bill Volume 1, I'm a big fan of. I love his action in that. After that, I probably would go Inglorious Bastards, Once Upon a Time, Jackie Brown. I'm a big fan of actually. Reservoir Dogs, and then near the bottom, probably just Django and Hateful Eight.
Yeah, Hateful Eight I haven't seen yet, and I don't feel super motivated to because I think it's towards the bottom of most people's rankings, and it also looked like not a fun hang.
Um, so I think the movie's still good, The Hateful Eight, and it looks great. Like it's one of
Yeah.
his most beautiful movies. And I really love the idea behind it, but it's also um not one of his more interesting ones. I rewatched it like a few years ago, and it really did not grab me as much as like his other stuff does.
Okay.
And his dialogue, it just I don't think works as well in that one.
I will get to it someday, but I just haven't yet. But yeah, I think probably Bastards for me is my favorite of his. It's the only one with Mike Myers, and that guy was the love guru. So there you go.
I mean, you can't beat that.
What a perfect transition back to the movie we're actually talking about, though. Tarantino dies pretty early in this one. I was surprised by that. Also surprised by the fact, maybe even more so surprised by the fact that Salma Hayek's did like one scene.
Yeah,
I didn't
I
know.
thought
Yeah,
that she was going to be like a bigger thing in this movie.
the the impression I had of this movie, just based on like absorbing through cultural osmosis what it was about, a lot more with the vampires, and also Salma Hayek is the main antagonist and has like a essentially a starring role. I think she is third billed, if I'm not wrong. But well, maybe Harvey Keitel
I
probably
think it's
is.
Cartel, but think she's right after that.
Yeah. Right. It definitely has to be Keitel. But yeah, I think she is like the next name that comes up, and it's in like a block of names, but still, I assume like, yes, of course, everyone knows Salma Hayek's in this. And it turns out all the images I've seen of Salma Hayek in this movie are from the same about 3.5 to 4 minute span.
I mean,
Because she
it's
pops up, she does her dance, she turns into a lizard vampire, and it is killed and
yep,
does not come back. She turns
and
into
she's
goo.
gone.
Yes, conclusively. I did like how conclusively some people died, that they burned up or gooed up and also burned at the same time.
Yeah, I did like that. Cheech Marin kept popping up though.
3 different roles.
Yep, that was fun.
Also,
I did that part. I really enjoyed.
I did laugh when the reveal that he was Carlos, the Carlos that suggested this place, because one place is as good as any other, as a place to meet up. And then also him saying, like, you said you wanted to meet in the morning, like, we're here. What's the problem?
Yeah, that that was good, and that Carlos had no idea of anything that was going on at the Titty Twister. It's just a place he drove by a bunch.
Yep. Leading to him feeling sorry enough that he lowers his rate from 30% of the loot to 25% of the loot.
And I like that he got him like Cheech said that he got it down to he said he would do 20%, and then they both decided to go for 25.
Yep. It's good. It's good.
It is. And you said this is the first Clooney film you did, right?
I think I'm trying to think like what else we would have done, but
Have
it's
you done
just like
Fantastic? Mr.
no.
Fox? No? Okay. I
No,
thought you
no,
did
no.
that in
Oh
the
shit.
fall.
Yeah. We did. We did. We
Okay,
did.
okay.
Yes, that was last year in fall. Last November, we did animation movies.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've done Fantastic Mr. Fox, but one where he appears on screen. And I think this is probably the peak Caesar cut Clooney. Also 96 is like the absolute, this is the George Clooney hairstyle, the signature hairstyle. I feel like this is it.
Yeah, I think this is it. And like especially for young Clooney.
Yeah.
Uh I also don't think Clooney can pull off tattoos. I it just does
It
not work
doesn't
for him.
it doesn't look correct.
No, no. It looks like he like it just makes him look like an actor.
Yeah, like this guy, even though he is a criminal that's just been broken out of prison, like he just doesn't. It looks like it's makeup on. This dude would not have a full tribal sleeve, Like
Yeah.
this. That's not this guy's vibe.
But I did really like Clooney in this film. And it is like one of his first like major pictures that he did too, or
Yeah.
I think at least his first starring one.
Yeah, and it's weird to think back on that because this is you're watching this movie going like, "Oh man, it's weird that Clooney's in this movie." But it's not like he had a huge movie career yet.
Yeah, which is always just so wild to me because like, how do you not like see Clooney, then see him act, and then like see his like charisma and be like, oh, like obviously we should just make him a star of a movie.
He just couldn't get out of ER.
Ah,
Um,
that emergency room.
that emergency room. Yeah. It's yeah, it's considered according to his first major Hollywood role from Dusk Till Dawn. There you go.
Yep. You have
And then he goes into
hey,
Super Drive. This is a year before Batman and Robin.
wow. Okay. Do you think people saw this and were like, this is going to be our next Batman?
Kinda. I mean, it's an action movie, right?
Yep, it's an action movie. He's
Like,
carrying most of it.
there's nothing else they can pull it from. Like, he's doing TV melodrama or this. And if it's the next year, he probably has to get cast off of this.
Yeah, and I imagine they were thinking like it's Batman. That's gonna sell like tickets already.
Yeah.
Let's just get some handsome guy to play him, and that it should be fine.
Yeah. Val Kilmer's not coming back, but we got Joel Schumacher still on board. Like, just get a guy with a chin in there.
Yeah, get him with a butt. I will say, I actually do like. I don't know if it's just because of all the superhero movies we gotten recently, but the Forever and Robin, I actually don't think they're that bad.
They're distinct.
Yes.
That is uncommon these days, as you can see by, the reception, let's say, that Aquaman 2 is getting at the theater right now.
Yes. Or the reception that the Marvels got.
Yeah. Um Uma Thurman genuinely good in and Robin.
I agree. She's camping it up really well.
She's the only one who understands that that's what she is supposed to do.
Yes.
Gratuitous shots of Batman's ass. Thank you, Joel Schumacher. Weird movie. Speaking of weird movies, it says we've been recording for a little over an hour. I'm not sure how much of this has been about From Dusk Till Dawn, but
Good enough amount.
Harvey Keitel's good at it. I like his stuff.
Yeah, I like his stuff.
I mean, Harvey Keitel, good actor, not that hot of a take, but still,
he's an underrated actor, I feel.
I think so. Yeah.
People don't talk about him as much, or don't talk about his career as much as they should.
So this is after. So Piano is what, 93, Pulp Fiction 94.
Yes, I think that's correct.
So it's a couple years after that, and
Like that is his peak, Keitel's peak.
probably. I don't
I
know.
think
I mean, the Piano is huge for like award circuit stuff, and then Pulp Fiction is huge for like changing the industry stuff. But it's not like he's the star of Pulp Fiction, but he obviously stands out in the scenes he's in.
yeah. Um, did he and Scorsese have like a falling out? Because I know he did Mean Streets, but like, he really had to work with Keitel that much.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a thing that God, what it's probably Blank Check has talked about that literal exact question, and I feel like they came down on. It's one of those things where like people don't like working with him because he's an asshole,
Oh,
which is believable.
yeah, that's believable. I can see that.
Yeah. Um, I mean, he's in The Irishman,
Yeah. Uh,
but that
quite a
was
few years later.
yeah. That's so Taxi Driver 76, Last Temptation of Christ, he's big in 88, and then 88 to 2019 is the
Yeah.
gap between their collabs. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to leave that in, but that's just like there's something they've talked about like okay, why did It was probably in the piano episode. um, or maybe the Holy Smoke episode. They had the Keitel talk.
Hmm.
And like, why did he stop working with Scorsese? Why didn't it ever like, what's his actual peak? That all those conversations for sure happened with people who have a much more inside knowledge than I do. So seek it out. He's good in this. I like his faithless preacher thing. It's an obvious thing, but like we're playing with archetypes here on purpose, and I think it really fits here.
Yeah, I think it works. I like. I think he kind of seems like a good dad in this movie too.
He does. Cares a lot about his kids. I
Yeah,
like that he's like, even with essentially a gun to his head, is still like takes offense to them calling him his son Japanese and corrects them.
yeah, I really like his how his character even when it like it doesn't matter when it happens, he's always like it feels like he's always challenging Clooney um on
Yeah.
like how to treat him or like how he should treat himself.
Yeah. And just giving him perspective too. Like, are you such a loser that you don't already know when you've won?
Yeah, I really like that scene actually a lot.
That's a good face up thing. And then they have like a tense drink together with some kind of mutual respect based on animosity. It's good.
Yeah, it is. It's something that you wouldn't expect from this surprise vampire movie.
And again, I think us talking about the parts of this movie that we were excited to talk about, 90% of what we've talked about is the last 45% of the movie, and pretty much none of it is Quentin Tarantino.
Nope.
A filmmaker I love, a guy I'm not sure I'd want to hang out with, and an actor I think is terrible.
All valid responses. Uh Also, I don't know if how many like Tarantino movies you've seen where he's only written them and was directed by someone else,
Yeah.
but not a big fan of a lot of them. This is probably actually my favorite of them.
What's the list on that? I don't have it in my head.
I don't have all of it in my head, but I know there's True Romance, which was
Okay. Yeah.
Tony Scott,
Yeah.
and the other one, the other noticeable one is Natural Born Killers, which was Oliver Stone.
Oh, sure. When's the last time he did acting?
He was in Django.
Django. Yeah.
Was he in
Mm,
Once Upon a Time? I don't think he was.
Technically, he has a voice cameo as someone directing a Red Apple Cigarettes commercial.
That's it. Oh, it's at the
And
beginning of the movie, right?
I think yes. And then a voice cameo as narrator in Hateful Eight. But I think his
Okay,
last time on screen, not as himself in like a documentary, is Django.
that makes sense. Oh well,
There
I
you go.
mean that that's the last time I can remember seeing him on screen in an acting performance.
Yeah. But as far as like actual big acting, this is sort of
This is his biggest role
his
as an
biggest
actor.
role, right? Yeah. I mean, he gets to pop up and say some slurs in Pulp Fiction, but
Yep,
that's
he
it's
gets
not
to
as big
pop
a
up.
role as this.
Yeah, and he in Django he got to say some slurs in there too.
That's true. That's true. All right, we should maybe wrap
Let's wrap.
on From Dusk Till Dawn. Clooney, there is a nice like getting ready for the final stand moment. Again, very Assault on Precinct 13, which is itself a loose remake of Rio Grande, I want to say. A Rio Bravo, one of those Rios.
I think it was really Bravo.
Rio Bravo, yeah. And also just like a thing that happens in Western movies a lot. So, no need to credit any one particular person, is what I'm saying. But it's nice. They get the stuff together. I like a lot, even right before that, I should say, when Harvey Keitel figures out that a baseball bat and shotgun can be a cross.
Yep. I,
And even though it's like keeping everyone away from him, he still does blow some people away with the shotgun and then cock it
yeah.
with the baseball bat, which is good.
I also like when they're trying to figure out like how to beat zombies.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, we need crosses." And they were like, "Oh, we got none." And then they're like, "Oh, can we just put two pieces of wood together?" And they're like, "All right, we got plenty of those."
Okay. All right. So in that case, we're all set on crosses. What else do we know? What do we got?
And I think there's a line from Keitel where it's like, "Okay, does anyone has anyone read a book on vampire that isn't like made up?"
Yeah. And then he did very logically, okay, what do we know about these vampires? What have we just seen? Um, I like, it feels like, it's better than when things try and pretend that like, oh, we've never heard of vampires, which is, um, the one, I won't even say it's a flaw because I still think Midnight Mass is perfect, but it's definitely like, it's weird that no one brings up, it seems like there's a vampire in this town. Um, But yeah, I like that they're like, okay, obviously none of us believe in vampires. Let's get
But
past this. We all know what we just saw. What do we know about these things? They're definitely vampires. What do we do?
we don't believe in them, but hey, they're here.
We are in it, so to speak. Um, yeah, I like all that. I like their last stand, and then I like that it doesn't go that well. Oh,
Yes.
and with the conversation where they're comparing notes, I like when they're talking about Sex Machine says like something about silver. And then the kid's like, no, that's werewolves. And then Sex Machine's like, no, that I know that's silver bullets, but I feel like silver is somehow related to vampires too.
Getting into the minute details of
Yeah,
like, this doesn't matter, but we are going to talk about it.
yeah. And then it's probably Keitel or Clooney that's like, well, we don't have any silver anyway, so let's move the fuck on.
I think that
Um,
whole conversation was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
it's good. Their vibes are good. Tom
Yes.
Savini's character, which I keep saying because I don't love saying Sex Machine over and over. He's all his stuff's good. I like that he's got a gun on his crotch that seems to be like a Segway mentally controlled. There doesn't seem to be any trigger that he's doing with his hands or anything. It
Yeah.
just sort of knows when to pop out and shoot.
And there's not even like, he's not even like doing a thrust. It just to like pop it out. It just kind of pops out.
Yep, it's good.
He's also, maybe besides Frost, the most effective zombie killer. I mean,
Oh
vampire
yeah,
killer.
yeah. He's I mean, him and Frost are the only non-main characters that make it through to the later stages. So
Oh, and we didn't even bring this up. The when Sex Machine is turning into a vampire, he is just hiding any part of him that is vampire like by like just putting it like closing his mouth or hiding behind his hands.
yeah, it's nice that the rules don't work the same for everyone about how quickly it takes. And I like that Harvey Keitel gets bitten on his way in to like meet up with the other people in the warehouse where they arm themselves and get ready. And he's like, for I'm probably going to turn to a vampire within the hour. And that made me laugh because it's like for some of these people it took 10 seconds.
Yeah. Like Frost, it was like he got bit and he was like, "Well, I'm already a vampire."
Yeah, like Keitel should not have gone in there. Um,
And then
because
Keitel spent like 10 minutes just explaining, like, "No, you have to kill me if I turn."
yeah, no, I don't believe you. So I'm going to shoot myself in the head. That goes on for a while. Yeah,
It
you're not wrong.
does. I'm like, "You're wasting time."
Really wasting time. Um, so do you want to get into ratings or anything else to say about this? I guess so. Yeah, Clooney and Juliette Lewis are the other ones who survive. Carlos shows up. Clooney continues on to El Rey.
Yep, El
So,
Rey, which I believe was a reference to The Getaway.
oh, I thought it was a reference to the TV channel that Robert Rodriguez would create 17 years later. But
Uh,
you're probably right.
no, I think it's both.
Okay. Lucha Underground, good show. And I guess however old sure we haven't said her. I think her name was Kate. Julia Lewis's character.
Yeah.
Yeah. However old Kate is, she I guess gets in the RV and drives back to America to start a new life.
And the problem with her driving that RV, she does not have the correct license to do it.
No, that's an important point earlier in the film. He has a commercial truck license, I believe.
Yes, which
in order
allows
to
them
operate it.
to uh, be served at the titty bar.
Yes, because Trejo's going to throw them out otherwise. By
Also,
the way,
young Trejo. It
yeah,
was nice seeing him in that.
yeah, and I know his whole thing is like he's had a pretty rough life, but it looks like it's been more than 26-ish years since this movie came out. When you see Trejo and you see Clooney,
Yeah,
like
Trejo has not aged as well as Clooney has.
no, and maybe even bringing Clooney into it's probably unfair, but those guys have not aged on the same linear time.
It is probably unfair because Clooney is Clooney, but it is it is striking.
It is striking for sure. Okay, let's get into ratings on a scale of 0.5 to 5 on any scale of your choosing. What would you give any scale besides stars? What would you give Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn?
I would give it 3.5 penis guns out of 5.
Uh, that's yeah. It's you got to watch out for that. If you try and pull a knife on Sex Machine, you're gonna get the gun. It's just how it goes.
And it's not an embarrassing way to go. You don't want to you don't want that on your tombstone or in your obituary.
No, crotch rocketed by Sex Machine, and people aren't going to know what that means unless they're regulars at the Titty Twister. Now I feel like mine should also be Sex Machine related.
He has a whip that he barely uses.
Yeah, but it's so effective when he uses it.
It is.
So yeah, I think I'll go with 3.5. Real clear opportunities to have defended yourself better against all these vampires out of 5 for me. Tongue in cheek, obviously, I understand the suspension of disbelief is important with genre film. But seriously, use that whip more, bro. It was working every time. You're pulling people's heads off and shit.
Has he learned nothing from Devo?
Yeah. Especially when you can whip it that good, you
must whip it.
You must whip it. There we go. That's like it took me a second to get to that joke formation, but we got there. Thank you for your help. So the questions that I eventually landed on for this month, it's a triple tip, a 3-part.
Oh, okay.
What's your favorite genre? What genre do you think they should make more of? And what's your least favorite genre or genre that you tend to bounce off of? And I will say Anthony went with a subgenre for that last part, if that helps you think of it. And to foreground, what we're doing this month is we've done comedy, now we've done horror. We'll still do sci-fi, romance, and action. Those are kind of the main genres we're circling.
For me, my favorite genre might be musical.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's just it's like I don't think any of my favorite movies are musicals, but I love song and dance. I love show tunes kind of music, and I just don't, I love the suspension of disbelief that films can give you of like, oh, everyone's gonna stop and we're just gonna sing and dance now. And I love just watching good people who are really good at dancing and people who do really good choreography work together. And I feel like it's like the first like special effect of like Grace Kelly like dancing. Like that just looks great.
Yeah, I mean, some people are. Uh, it's like when Channing Tatum does like some any actual dancing, like in Hail Caesar or the Magic Mike films or whatever,
Yes.
and you're like, oh shit, that's a different kind of person. Um, that it just doesn't, you know, like you said, special effects. It's like, oh, I that's not a thing I can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's for other people. Speaking of one thing you didn't mention in what we've watched recently or 2023 movies is Wonka, a secret musical that they didn't advertise as a musical.
That's true.
But I think you've seen it according to
I
your
did see it.
list. Yeah.
I thought I like Wonka. I didn't think it was like incredible or anything, or like at the same level like the Paddingtons.
Yes.
But I did
Same
like it.
guy, same director as the Paddingtons.
This
Should
music
say.
this musical is more like here are some songs and then there's some dancing. There's not a whole lot of the dancing part of it.
Yeah, I've heard that. I do want to see it though. It looks apparently it's quite charming according to some.
It's definitely charming. I have issues with the third act, but I still like the movie. It's especially the first two acts. I think it's very light. It's very charming, and especially like for like kids movies, like this one just doesn't like talk down to you or like treat you like like as smaller or something. Like it's just nice.
Ah, sorry, I was yawning halfway through that. My bad. that's
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 fine.
good. It's good that it doesn't talk down to you. That part of it at least sounds a lot like the Paddington movies.
Yes.
Um, so one big one, currently the number one movie in the country in theaters right now. Number one as we're recording, at least. Um, would that also be your pick for a genre they should make more of, or would you go in a different direction?
I'm actually going a different direction for a genre they should make more of, which is whodunits, which is
Agreed.
I believe it's more of a subgenre, but like I just love a good mystery.
Yeah.
Like I think no, it was not 2 years now since it's 2024. Confess Fletch came out with John Hamm,
Yep.
and that movie's good. It's not like great or anything, but like it's like that kind of movie, just something I would love to see like 20 more of, just because like I just kind of like someone who's this smart and like figures something out. Like that's just good. That's just good filmmaking.
Yeah. Um, when we did Who Done It Month, I think if you look back on those episodes, you'll note that we had to reach pretty far back to get a whole month out of it. Just because they don't make a lot of those, even though it's one of the classic formats people tend to love. The only one who gets to make those now is Ryan Johnson, and he just makes deconstructions of that. But like
Yeah.
a pure actual whodunit, you just don't really get ever.
No, and I just would love to see that genre like get revived or like get more of like after Knives Out came was released. I was surprised there weren't more like imitators that came out.
That is surprising. It's I guess I don't know that especially Knives Out compared to Glass Onion is I feel like a lot tighter and maybe it just scared people off of trying to do that or probably there probably were a lot of scripts floating around, but it probably scared studios off of financing them because
Yeah.
um, that's not just like in my mind at least a good well-made movie that works well. It also happens to have a lot of famous people in it, so it's probably expensive to make one of those.
Yeah, and a lot of the like big whodunits usually do have like a lot of just famous people in them.
Yeah,
Um
that's part
I
of
know,
the tradition, really.
and I know we did have the Kenneth Branagh's Hercule Poirot movies.
Yeah,
Um and actually um last year there was a Haunting in Venice, which is actually really good.
I haven't watched it yet. I want to. I think it's probably out on streaming soon. I know it's out on home video.
I feel like it's on Hulu already.
Oh,
I'm
dope.
not 100% sure on that.
I've been feeling spooky lately, like I said, so I'll probably
Ooh.
bang that one out.
Check it out. It's the mystery itself is relatively easy to solve, but it's still like I love the melding of genres in that one.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's probably a remiss to not mention Branagh as a guy who's keeping it alive. But I think you were talking about like new ones that aren't like. I don't know if it's different, but I know for at least you know you can kind of those things already exist and have for a while, so it's not. You kind of just want original shit too.
Yeah, no, I still want like more Knives Out stuff where it's like here's a new thing. It's not based off of anything. Just go
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, exactly. All right, and then what's something that you bounce off of genre wise?
When you say bounce off, you mean like something I'm just not crazy about?
Yeah, I was just figuring since you watch so many movies, it might be hard to be like, oh, I hate all movies in this genre, but something that's harder for you to get into or that you don't
Um,
return to as much.
yeah, I know exactly what it is. It's more of a subgenre, but it's
Yeah.
any sort of um high class British like period piece of like, oh, this movie is about like, oh, this person's not proper. And they're not going to fit into this society, and it's just that kind of stuff. Tom Jones or um, a view from a window or whatever it's called. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just
all the merchant ivory stuff is what I kind of
yeah.
lump that into. My last episode, Anthony and I got a lot of I don't know, enjoyment out of some of the among the last jokes in Waiting for Guffman were Corky showing off his remains of the day lunchboxes. Um, like yeah, exactly. Good movie, but like instant punchline. Just it's funny to think about those movies.
Yes.
Like yeah, and the idea that like a child would be excited by what sounds like the most boring movie ever made. Anyway,
I, I haven't seen Waiting for Guffman, but I do really like that joke.
yeah. Well, there you go. I spoiled the best joke in the movie. um, my answers would be pretty much the same. I'm trying to get more into horror. They're making tons of it though. It's constantly more horror coming out. I'm going to see Night Swim. Why not?
Yeah,
Wyatt Russell.
someone's gotta. They're saying Marco, you got to go there and say Polo.
You know what? I will be poloing my way to the theater along with everyone else. It's a Blumhouse movie. Everyone's going to make fun of it, and then it's going to come out and make 12 times its budget.
Yep.
It's Carrie Condon's follow up to Banshees of Inisherin.
Wait, really?
Yeah, she's starring in it. It's her first movie that I could go see in a theater since Banshees of Inisherin.
No,
So
I mean, that's true. So
I like Wyatt Russell a lot. He looks almost like one of my favorite actors of all time.
Weird.
For the same reason, I am trying to watch Monarch: Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV because him and his dad play the same character. His dad, of course, Kurt Russell. And anyway, all that to say, you know, movies are good. I don't know. Maybe that's how I should end the podcast.
Movies, good.
Movies are good. And then for genres I don't like, I also don't like boring movies.
Yeah, boring movies just I don't know what you think, but like they're boring.
On that note, I think we're all done here. I may be a bastard, but I'm not a fucking bastard. And I drive off in my convertible to El Rey.
Good luck, Ben.
That's what he says to Juliette Lewis, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I think he says all that. He said, I'm going to drive in my convertible and get the fuck over to El Rey.
We didn't mention this. George Clooney narrates everything he does in first person, but still he's narrating it out loud the whole movie.
Yeah, I noticed sometimes you'll if you listen closely enough, you'll be like interior bar.
Yeah, it's I don't know. This is like we said, it's his first major Hollywood starring role, so he had a lot to learn.
Yeah, I think
only a few years before Ocean's 11. You can tell he only does it a few times at Ocean's 11.
Yeah. He was still learning. I mean, especially in Dusk Till Dawn, he's learning, and you can see Robert Rodriguez being like, I'm gonna be easy on him. He's a nice guy, so
yeah. Thanks, Foz.
Oh, thanks, Ben. Movies are good.
Movies are good. You can find more of our stuff on Linktree. That's linktr.ee/late to the movie. Spell it out. Don't use numbers. And until next time, we got all kinds of podcast. I don't have it in front of me anymore.
Well, you had a good try.
This is Chet Podcast. I'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.